Ampersand reviewing every video game. You know that he ain't spewing opinions that are lame. Ampersand, yeah, ampersand, gonna find those 10 out of 10s. Ampersand, yeah, ampersand, through that expert gamer lens. Yeah!
Hey gamers, what's up? My name's Ampersand and this is my review of Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine CD. Now if you don't know anything about this game, I'll give you a bit of backstory before we hop into the gameplay itself. Now this game is a prequel of a more well-known title called Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Symphony of the Night is one of my all-time favorite video games, so it's interesting to see where Symphony of the Night started, and it started in Rondo of Blood. Released exclusively in Japan, Westerners like me never got a chance to play this game when it first came out. What we did get was a video game called Castlevania Dracula X, which was a bastardized port of this game, which has very little relation to the source material. So with Rondo of Blood stuck in Japan, how were Western audiences expected to play it? Well, Rondo of Blood garnered a cult following from the hardcore Castlevania fans who were always on the lookout for new experiences with the series. This led to a fan translation being made by the Western fans who became enamored with its gameplay. For this review, I played the fan translation. Rondo of Blood, being a new entry in the Castlevania series, this game introduced some exciting new layers of polish on top of the tried and true Castlevania formula. One of the first things you're going to notice when you begin the game are the anime cutscenes. These relay the story of Castlevania in a new way, with hand-drawn scenes fleshing out the story that would normally be a small blurb in the manual of older Castlevania games. However, being hand-drawn, I feel some of the scenes don't look as good as they should, but overall, I find it a welcome addition. Now, enough talk, let's get into the game proper. The game starts off with the main character, Richter Belmont, in a boss fight against Death himself. Now that might seem like an intimidating prospect, being thrust into the heat of battle with one of Dracula's top minions, but it's actually just a bit of tutorial. It gets you used to dodging enemy projectiles, jumping, whipping, all the things you'll use throughout the rest of your adventure. This is all by the numbers Castlevania fare, but it's time-tested as an endlessly addicting and fun gameplay loop that made the series so renowned in the first place. The sense of control over your character's every action makes the gameplay tight and responsive. You can flick out your whip on a dime to whip death in the balls over and over. Also returning are sub-weapons that you can use to defeat bosses or enemies with particularly annoying attack patterns, and you can even use a screen-wiping super move at the cost of more hearts. In fact, the gameplay is so reminiscent of earlier Castlevania titles. When you initially step into Dracula's castle, you get a recreation of the first stage of the original Castlevania, but now with epic CD audio for the music. Personally, I love it when games make nods to their roots like this. There's some nostalgia at play for sure, but it also makes a franchise feel more cohesive. Speaking of the levels, they are gorgeous and expansive. Every stage has tons of neat effects, parallax scrolling, the works to make them visually pop. On top of that, they have multiple paths you can take, leading to new areas of the game with unique challenges, making every playthrough a little different. It's not just the levels that shine though. The enemies all have detailed designs. It's almost a pity that you have to whip them all to death when they look so good. Even simple enemies like the skeletons and rock golems from the first stage stand out with the artistry that was used to make their pixelated sprites. The bosses are incredible too, with a variety of attacks to keep you on your toes, but they are also well telegraphed and easy to read from the background, so it never gets cluttered or messy. On top of the wonderful visual presentation, the music is on point throughout the entirety of the game, returning classics, brand new works, all meshed together to make for an unforgettable listening experience. With all this praise said, I do have to warn the average gamer about what they're in for should they choose to give this game a shot. It's both a difficult yet forgiving game that seems more an exercise in patience than being overly demanding of your reflexes and skill. You see, when you die, you start at the beginning of the section you just ended on. So if you get to a boss, for instance, and you die, you can immediately jump back in and try again. That said, there's a live system in this game, and if you run out of them and die, you do have to begin from the start of the stage again. Thank God you don't have to replay the entire game, but it can still be a struggle to force yourself to trudge through a whole stage again just to get another shot to potentially beat a boss. It's demanding, and if you aren't ready to die and retry, you'll have an unpleasant time with this game. For me, what I thought was most emblematic of the difficulty was an arduous boss gauntlet near the end of the game. You have to beat every Castlevania 1 boss, sans Dracula, back to back without dying. That means taking on the vampire bat, Medusa, the mummy, and Frankenstein's monster without succumbing once. And even if you do beat them all, Dracula's right-hand man, Shaft, comes to ruin your day, and you have to fight another boss battle. Thankfully, if you beat the first 4 bosses, you can restart on Shaft's fight if you die to his many spells and projectiles. But if you get a game over, you have to do the entire gauntlet again. Damn. Once you beat it though, you can move on, but I wouldn't expect Shaft to go away so easily. So once you've managed to make it all the way to the end of the game, what awaits you? The beginning of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. That's right, the end is where the next game starts, and the fight is largely unchanged. Dracula shoots 3 fireballs at you that can be a bit of a pain to properly overcome, and he also has 2 dark orbs he shoots out at you that are a little easier to dodge. But that's it. Learn those 2 attacks, smack him in the face, and you're done. You've beat the game. Well, not quite. Then Dracula turns into his giant demon form, where he takes up a large portion of the screen to jump around like a maniac and try to stomp you to death. He can also breathe fire and shoot lightning. But his slow, massive, lumbering form is easy to whip on, and if you hold fast, you'll defeat him in no time. So that's the end of the game. A final cutscene shows and you're off to the credits. Is that all there is to enjoy? Thankfully, there is a bit more to be accomplished if you really want to get the most out of Rondo of Blood. Remember how I mentioned branching paths throughout the levels? Some of them lead to prisoners who you can rescue, which give you additional cutscenes and story, but one is an unlockable character if you rescue her. Her name is Maria. She's this little girl who throws white doves at enemies that can hit multiple times. She also has sub-weapons completely exclusive to her. She can do a double jump, and is a lot more mobile and damaging than Richter, but this comes at the expense of her taking more damage on hit than him. So it's nice that the adventure can continue on a little longer if you'd like, with a new way to play through the game as Maria, and you can get a 100% completion rating if you go through all the different paths through the levels and rescue everyone. So the post-game content isn't nothing. Overall, I think this is a wonderful game. A beautiful presentation, rocking music, tight gameplay and controls, and heaps of player agency and how you navigate the levels make this an easy recommend, especially if you're a fan of Symphony of the Night, or even just Castlevania in general. I highly suggest you play this game. Well gamers, thanks for watching my review, and I hope it was informative and fun. I'll see you next time. Later, gamer!